Olivia. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful Monday evening for our info session, the first one of the year. My name is Marianne Matke. I'm the Education Program Manager in the Division of General Internal Medicine at Brigham and Women's Hospital. This is my fourth year participating or running administratively the PCE, and I'm very excited for you all to be here together with some of the great leaders, as well as former students and admissions people that we have joining us tonight. With me from the administrative team, I have two members, Tiana Jarisic, you can wave a little. Tiana has been with me for, I want to say, 2.5 years now. She works mainly remote, holds a master's in public health, and is working on her PhD. So we always wish her best of luck for that. And then I will let Olivia introduce herself and pass it on to the next person.
Hi, I'm Olivia. I am on my third year with the PCE, also doing program administration with Marion. And I have my BS in biology, and I actually just applied to medical school. So I am in the middle of med school interviews. So that's what I'm kind of doing for the most part. I work both remote and in person throughout the year. And when I'm remote, I am in Michigan at the moment. And I'll pass on to Heather.
Thanks, Olivia. Hi, everybody. Great to see you, and thanks for joining us. I'm Heather Baer. I am an epidemiologist based in the Division of General Internal Medicine and Primary Care at the Brigham. And in terms of the program and clinical effectiveness, I have the pleasure of being the lead instructor of EPI 208, Introduction to Clinical Epidemiology, which is one of the required courses that's part of the program in clinical effectiveness. And I'm also the faculty director of the MPH in clinical effectiveness, which some people who take the PCE go into. So I'll speak about both of those things later on in the presentation. So maybe I will quickly turn it to David. I don't think, David, you introduced yourself yet.
I'm David Bates. I'm one of the co-directors of the program, and I'm a general internist in the Division of General Internal Medicine. And I think I will hand it over to Fran.
Hi, everyone, and good evening if you're in a time zone, or good morning, good afternoon if you're not. I'm Fran Cook. I'm an epidemiologist at the Harvard Chan School of Public Health and also at the Division of General Medicine at the Brigham Women's Hospital. I'm one of the co-directors of this program, and I'll be speaking in a few minutes, but now I'm going to turn it over to Brian Healy.
Hey, Fran. My name is Brian Healy. I am the person who teaches the introductory biostatistics class that I'll explain more about shortly, but I'm super excited to get to meet y'all. And y'all don't know it yet, but you're going to love statistics when it comes to be in the program. So anyway, back to you, Fran.
Marion, anything else you want to say before we get started?
No, I think we can start going ahead. We have a full hour planned.
I'm going to try to share a screen then, and you guys can let me know in a minute if you are going to be seeing my screen.
We
so
can.
you see some PowerPoint slides.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, tonight this is an information session. We're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about three things. I'm going to be talking about the program and clinical effectiveness. And actually, I'm going to be bragging about the program and clinical effectiveness. And then Heather will be talking about 2 degree programs at the Harvard Chan School of Public Health that were essentially created or targeted or open, good matches, if you want, for people who begin with their degree with the program in clinical effectiveness. The MPH, Masters of Public Health and Clinical Effectiveness, and the Masters of Science in Epidemiology. There are other degree programs at Harvard that might be of interest to you, that might be options to begin with taking the program in clinical effectiveness, but these are the 2 main ones. If you're applying to a different degree program than these 2, and you're interested in taking the program in clinical effectiveness, check with the admissions or the department to make sure that the PCE courses are an option to begin your training with a degree program at Harvard Chan. But in terms of the agenda, I'm going to be giving you a brief description and history of the PCE. We're going to be talking about the courses that we taught last summer, which are essentially the same that we'll be offering this coming summer. We'll be talking about targeted degree programs, the two that I mentioned, the MPH in clinical effectiveness and the MS in epidemiology. Heather has coerced 3 great students who are going to be who took our program to give you honest, candid evaluations of their experience taking this program. And then we'll be talking about the application process to a degree program at Harvard Chan. I believe the deadline is December 1st of this year. And then we're going to be opening up for a series of questions from you guys. So hopefully we'll take us 25 minutes to go through these slides. And then we'll spend the rest of the time answering questions. So let me talk about the program in clinical effectiveness, describe it, and tell you a little bit about its history. This program is an intensive 6 weeks program designed for physicians and other clinicians seeking the analytic skills needed for clinical health services or population health research. So what we're here for is to training those people who want to do clinical research. This is probably the oldest program in existence with that as its goal. It's had a planning year of 1986. Our first class was 1987. So you can see we're closing in on 40 years of experience of teaching this program. It's intensive, but it's focused for a particular goal, training clinicians who want to do research. And it, as I will try to brag, it gets very good ratings. I think we know how to work this, having done it for almost 40 years. I'm not familiar with every other program that's existence and around the world to train clinicians, but in my view, the ones I know about, this is the best. It's spawned a few other programs. Students have taken our program and started other programs in clinical effectiveness at other sites. I'm not saying these other programs are not good. They're very good programs, but I think we have the history and the experience to claim that we might be the best for training the clinicians who want to do clinical research. Essentially, it's 6 weeks. Some people have described this as a boot camp because essentially it's 5 days a week for 6 weeks. Everyone takes 3 classes a day, plus there might be some computer labs or some office hours or things like that. So it's a full day experience for those 6 weeks that you're here. One of the directors who started this program said his goal was to push you to the edge, but not push you off the edge. He said you could go to the beach on weekends, but just take your statistics book with you. Brian, he said specifically statistics. So it's intense, but but we get great evaluations despite the schedule, despite the intense nature of it. People who have taken this course highly, highly rate it. Those 6 weeks, those 3 classes a day will give you 15 academic credits towards a degree at the Harvard Chan School of Public Health. That's essentially 1/3 of the credits you need for a Master's of Public Health or a Master's of Science degree. So it's intense, but gives you a great starting point if you're going to be doing a degree program at Harvard Chan. But the PCE program is not designed to be a feeding program for degrees. It can be considered, and it is a standalone non-degree program that will give you the tools to do clinical research. So at the end of the summer, if you're not going on for a degree, you'll still have the tools to do and become clinical researchers. Many of our graduates did not go on for degrees at Chan and have done remarkably great experience in clinical research, great publications. But it's also can be considered a starting point, the beginning of a degree program. Those 15 credits, essentially the 1/3 of the degree, it gets you off to a great start. So you might be able to take the rest of the degree at a schedule that allows you to see clinicians and if you're local or do research. So it's a good starting point for a degree. And I just want to stress again, this is a very highly rated program. The students who take this program, we pick their minds at the end of every summer. How did you like the program? How did you like the individual courses? It's highly, evaluated, highly rated. Some of the strongest evaluations at the Harvard Chan School of Public Health are given by students who take our PCE courses in the summer. So that's the bragging first part of bragging I want to be talking about. We've been around for 38 years. We've trained about 4,000 students. About half of them have come back for a second summer, meaning they've gone on for a degree at the Harvard Chan, either taking a summer focused degree or taking courses during the fall, spring, and subsequent summer period. We've developed 2 targeted degree programs, the MPH in clinical effectiveness and the summer only MPH in the academic year MPH in clinical effectiveness, and the summer only Master of Science in Epi. We'll be talking about those degrees in a few minutes. In terms of the courses we held last summer, which are essentially going to be the same courses that we hold this summer, we're in the process now of lining up the instructors and finalizing the curriculum for 2025. But first of all, I'd like to talk about the morning of those 6 weeks. This is the guts of the program, the morning courses. The morning is dedicated to introductory epidemiology and introductory biostatistics. In a few minutes, Heather will be talking about her course, Epidemiology 208. Brian will be talking about his course. Last summer, it was divided into 2 pieces. This summer, it'll be in 1 piece, but he'll be talking about those. But I got to brag again. These are the best introductory courses in epidemiology and biostatistics in terms of student ratings at the Harvard Chan School. I think we have 5 different opportunities or options for students to start degree programs at Harvard Chan. We are one of them. The other 4 get good evaluations. They're good programs. I used to teach in one of them, at least. But I think this is the best. It's the most highly rated. And for the clinicians, clinical research, it gives you the tools that are specifically needed to develop a career in that particular area. So it's the best starting point for a degree if you're going on and doing clinical research. It's also, I think, the best standalone program, the 6-week program, to give you the tools to start your career in clinical research, even if you're not going on for a degree at Harvard Chan. So this is what the morning looked like last summer. It'll look like the same next summer. It's 3 sections each morning, 8 to 9:30. Heather is teaching epidemiology. 11:30 to 1. Brian is teaching biostatistics. And in the middle, the sandwich course, the center of the Oreo cookie, if you want, is either epidemiology on some days or biostatistics on other days. These 2 courses are very well integrated. They cover the tools, the methods of introductory epidemiology and biostatistics that you'll find in other courses. Plus, they go, I think, a little bit deeper into the methods, and they stress applications. And Heather will be talking a little bit about the applied nature of Epidemiology 208. So as I say, they're highly rated, they're applied, they're integrated, and in my opinion, this is the flagship courses of the program in clinical effectiveness. The other courses I'll be talking about are very important, but I think this is the guts of our program, the morning. So what I'd like to do now is ask Heather to take over for a few minutes and talk about her course, and Brian to talk about his course. So I'm going to take a glass of water, Heather, and can you take over?
Sure. Thanks, Fran. And I always think it's funny when Fran calls Epi 208 my course, because the best part of Epi 208 is there's actually many faculty involved in the course. So I am the lead instructor, so I give some of the lectures in the course and kind of lead the overall experience, but there's many other faculty involved as well. And I think that's what makes it a really fantastic course. So Epi 208 is Introduction to Clinical Epidemiology. As I said, I am the lead instructor. There's sort of 3 other main instructors, but then we have a bunch of faculty who help with other pieces that I'll talk about in a minute. So in terms of the content of Epi 208, it covers the principles and methods that are used in traditional as well as clinical epidemiologic research. So I don't have all the topics listed here, but for example, we cover all the different study designs that you might use in clinical epidemiology, outcome measures, measures of association, confounding, bias. How do you sort of predict what direction those things go in? How do we try to address them in our study design and analysis? So a lot of topics that you would cover in most introductory epidemiology classes. But then in addition, we actually have some more advanced topics that you wouldn't necessarily cover in other intro epi classes. So for example, we have a couple sessions about propensity score analysis, because this is a method that's becoming more common in clinical epidemiology. And we want to make sure even students who may not be going on to a degree program in the future are exposed to this method. So it's a pretty broad and I think really relevant list of topics that we cover in class. In terms of the structure, most days of the summer, we have lectures where there'll be me or one of the other faculty kind of giving a lecture on one of the topics that I mentioned, but we really do try to have the lectures be very interactive. So for example, during our lectures, I often do polling where I ask students questions, have them talk to each other, see what they come up with to try to make sure that students are understanding the content as we're covering it. There are homework assignments that help complement the material that you're learning in class. There's a quiz about halfway through, again, that helps you kind of integrate what you've learned so far. So I think it's a very interactive, and we use a lot of different teaching methods to kind of reinforce the material. But I think one of the things that I really want to highlight, and I think makes this course unique compared to other intro epi courses that you might take at the school public health or even at other places, is that students, in parallel with kind of learning the material through lectures, homeworks, etc., each student works on an individual project on a topic of their choice that helps apply the concepts that are being taught in class. So this is really what Fran was mentioning before in terms of really taking the material that you're learning in class and applying it to a topic of your choice. So each student basically throughout the summer is working on writing a proposal for a research study. So it's kind of written as a mini grant proposal. It's not as long as a regular grant proposal would be. It doesn't include all of the components of a grant proposal, like we don't make students do a budget, but it does really constitute the study design portion of a real grant proposal. So it's an 8-page double-spaced paper that you work on sort of during the summer. Again, students get to pick their own topic. And in fact, before the summer starts, a couple months before that, we start sending information so that by the time you come in the summer, you already have a topic in mind and you're ready to kind of hit the ground running. And then during the summer, it's not just that you're working on your proposal kind of by yourself. In fact, we have a lot of things that are built into the course to help you along the way. So this is where a lot of the other faculty that I mentioned come in. So we have a couple of small group workshops with 4 students to 1 faculty member where you brainstorm your idea, sort of present it to other people, get feedback. Then there's more formal presentations that happen a little bit later in the summer where you do a 15-minute presentation with PowerPoint slides and again, get feedback from faculty and other students. There's lots of opportunity for one-on-one office hours with faculty during the summer to get feedback. And then all of that culminates in the final paper. Again, that's written as kind of a mini grant proposal that's due at the very end of the course. So all of this, again, helps you reinforce what you're learning in class and really, I think, enables you to get a lot of feedback along the way. And so especially in terms of all those activities for the project, we have about 60 faculty who are involved in order to make all of that happen. And I think that's, again, you have get really nice exposure to lots of different faculty interests. And one thing to mention is that many students end up using that proposal that you write for EPI 208 as kind of the starting point of your research. So some people go on to get funding, so really to write a real grant proposal. Some people don't necessarily get funding, but go on to do the project anyway and end up writing a paper based on it. So I think it really does help students not only learn the material in the course, but really sort of set you up for starting your own research. So I always get excited about EPI 208 and I talk for too long, so I'll stop here, but happy to answer questions about it afterward. And again, one thing I'll mention is that we also try to integrate EPI 208 with the biostatistics courses that Brian teaches. They're separate courses, but we try to line up to make sure we're covering similar topics at the right time so that they really complement each other. So with that in mind, I'm going to pass it over to Brian to talk about the biostatistics course.
Okay, so my class is a little more standard than Heather's class in that it's pretty much just me and the TFs who teach the class. But I actually think that leads to it being kind of great because I get to know the students pretty well by the end of it, even though it's a big class. And I kind of love statistics. So the best part of my day is to get to talk to people about statistics. And so that's what we will do. So at the moment, it's listed as 2 classes. Probably when you guys get here, it'll only be 1 class. So it'll just be BST 206, but we try to basically cover the most commonly used approaches in medical statistics. The first 3 weeks, we'll kind of talk through 2 group comparisons and power calculations, and then we'll do a week of regression. And then we'll kind of do the stuff here you see at the end with the paired data and ANOVA. And the goal is to allow you to understand the big picture ideas of statistics, but also how to apply it in the software. So the idea is nowadays you can't, or hearing the words is great, but I think it's really important to be able to do it a little bit yourself as well. So every topic has a corresponding session where we teach you how to do whatever the topic is in statistical software. And then we also have a couple of additional sessions where we kind of focus on reading the literature So we kind of go through how to read a paper and think about the statistics part, because most of you aren't looking at that part too much at the moment, maybe, but hopefully after my class and Heather's class and the whole program, you'll be excited to see what's in those sections to learn some more. So I'm super excited to get to meet you all come the summer, and I'll turn it back over to Fran.
Okay, just before we talk about the afternoon electives, two things that were mentioned, I'd just like to stress that make these courses different from others that are taught at Harvard Chan, at least, is, Heather's exercise that she described, where everyone's writing an 8-page paper, essentially the guts of a study proposal that they want to do. You pick the project. No one does that in any of the other courses, introductory courses in epidemiology and biostatistics that we teach, to the depth that we do it. Brian, will give you the foundations of programming in SAS, Stata, or R. Years ago, everyone used SAS at Harvard, so that was the only package we taught. But now Brian gives you the option of learning 1, 2, or all 3 of these, because as I talk about our elective courses in a minute, some of them are going to be statistics courses that might use one of these languages, so they allow you to learn the basics before you go into those more advanced courses in the afternoon. So bragging again, these morning courses are very, very special. But that's not everything that's taught at the program in clinical effectiveness. We also have a series of elective courses that you can choose from in the afternoon. Everybody has to take the epidemiology and the biostatistics classes in the morning, with one exception that I'll talk about in a minute. And everybody has to take one elective course in the first 3 weeks, the summer 1 period, and a different afternoon elective course in the second 3 weeks. Last year, these are the 4 courses that we offered during the summer 1 period for people to choose from. We're not going to go into detail and describe each of them, but Dave Bates is with us tonight, one of our other co-directors. He teaches the medical informatics course, the one on the top. And Dave, you want to say something about your course or the afternoon courses in general?
Yes, I think Fran is sort of selling the afternoon courses a little short, in that they let you go deep into some area that you find to be of interest. And the informatics course is a really terrific one. Essentially, all care today is being delivered using electronic health records, and there is a tremendous amount of data that are available in those health records. And if you're going to do clinical effectiveness research, you're going to want to be able to get data out of those electronic health records. And in the informatics course, we don't teach you to become informaticians. I'm an informatician, but what we do teach you to do is to understand what's in the electronic health records, what the strengths and limitations are of that data, and how you might get it out and use it to do the clinical effectiveness research that you eventually are going to do. Most people, when they do their epi projects, will be getting their data out of those records. So I think it behooves everyone to learn about this area. But all the other electives are really terrific too. For example, the decision analysis class is one of the most loved electives. And should you want to do decision analysis, this is a really good way to learn to do it. And the improvement by design course is a new course that's taught by people from Ariadne Labs, and they are the national leaders around, particularly around the spread of innovations. So if that's an area that you're interested in, that's a really great course. All these courses are very, very strong.
And I should add, there are other courses offered in the summer that are open to our students that are not labeled as program and clinical effectiveness courses, but anyone can take them. And last year, one of the options that many of our students took in the afternoon was a course on healthcare economics that was highly rated. So these were the options last summer during the first 3 weeks. The second 3 weeks, we had 5 options that we offered to students. Again, for those who choose to take our program later in the spring, we'll have an information session where we describe each of the courses that we'll be offering each summer. But I just want to point out that when this program started, in 1987, we had one elective course in the summer one period that everyone had to take, and one elective course in the summer two period that everyone had to take. I think the summer one course was medical decision making, and the summer two was health policy. These other courses that have been added over the years, in part, were added because previous students, when asked at the end of the summer, the question, what courses should we add to our program? They suggested the other courses that we list here. So we're constantly modifying the program to some extent, adding a new course here and there, but also modifying the content of the course in part based on what our alums tell us at the end of the summer. Now, I said there's one exception. I said everyone has to take the morning courses in epidemiology and biostatistics. Every year, we might have one or two people who have had previous graduate level training in epidemiology and biostatistics. They still want to take the PCE, but they've already had much of what Heather and Brian are teaching. So we give them the option, if they want, to essentially petition to replace the morning courses in epidemiology and biostatistics with more advanced courses in epidemiology and biostatistics. In summer one, we offer a course that meets twice a day, each day, on essentially the analysis methods that clinical epidemiologists use, regression methods, machine learning methods, propensity scores. In summer two, we have a course on survival analysis. So if you've had previous training in Epi and Biostat and you still want to take the elective courses we take and these more advanced courses, that's an option you can apply for in place of the morning core courses in epidemiology and biostatistics. Now, the last thing I'm going to be talking about is 20 years into our program, we did a survey of our graduates. In 2006, 2007, we emailed essentially everybody who took our program in the first 20 years. It was almost 1,500 people. We got a very good response rate. 3/4 of the people responded. There's a publication. If you want to see it, you can download this and get a PDF of it. And it's on our website also to find all the details, all the results that they found. But I'm just going to point out a few. 20 years into the program, we asked our students, what current position do they have? And look, 6 of them were deans, 31 were department chairs, 101 were division chiefs. Now, it's almost been 40 years. If we ask these same people and the ones who have taken it since the 20-year mark, we'd have a lot more of these people. This just reflects what people the accomplishments of what our graduates have gone on to. We also asked our graduates about, did they do the project, for example, that they designed in the EPI 208 morning courses? 43% said yes, they got funding to do it. In other words, they submitted what they wrote up in EPI as part of a grant proposal, and it got funded. Almost 2/3 of them said the project they designed in the morning course ended up leading to a publication. Now, many of the afternoon classes also have a project that people work on, either individually or in groups. And 14% of the people said they got grant funding for the afternoon project they designed in one of the courses. And 30% of it said that project led to a publication. This just reflects the applied nature of our program. But it also reflects a very important point I want to stress. It reflects the type of student who take our program. We are lucky, we're privileged to have a gifted pool of students every year, highly motivated, very intelligent. They take this 6 weeks course and they eat it up and they hit the ground running as soon as the summer is over. So it's the students who make this program, I think, really how special it is. Okay, that's essentially almost the end of what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to turn it back to Heather, and she's going to be talking about these degree programs that many of our students take and begin by taking the program in clinical effectiveness. So Heather, you want to come back on?
Sure. Thanks, Fran. And I'll try to be brief. Because I want to make sure we get to hear from our students who just went through the PCE. But I'll talk about 2 sort of targeted degree programs that students can go into after the PCE. The first is the MPH in clinical effectiveness, which is the one I'll talk about first. And I do know I will say a little bit more about that one because I'm currently the faculty director of the MPH in clinical effectiveness. But I'll also talk just really briefly about the Masters of Science as well in epidemiology, and just give you a quick intro to that. So next slide, please. Thanks, Fran. So the MPH in clinical effectiveness is just one of the fields of study, they're called, at the Harvard T.H. Chan School. So you can get an MPH in a variety of different sort of fields of study. Clinical effectiveness is one of them, but I think it might be the largest one actually. So, and it was designed specifically to follow the program in clinical effectiveness. The MPH in clinical effectiveness, like other MPH programs at the school, you have to get 45 credits in order to graduate, although actually you can take over 45 credits for no additional charge. So the PCE is 15 credits. So just to give you a sense, after you've done the PCE, you have about a third of an MPH at that point. You can apply for and enter the MPH in clinical effectiveness at the same time as the PCE. So some of you may be applying on December 1st this year to sort of start the PCE and then, start the MPH in clinical effectiveness at the same time. But you can also just do the PCE and, plan to do it as a standalone certificate program. And then perhaps later on, you might decide that you want to go on to the MPH in clinical effectiveness. So that's also something that's possible. And you can do that as long as you apply within 5 years of finishing the PCE. So the MPH in clinical effectiveness is really focused on identifying the most appropriate, ethical, and cost-effective means of providing healthcare through prevention, early detection, and treatment. In terms of the qualifications, people who apply to the MPH in clinical effectiveness have to have either a prior medical or doctoral degree, but that includes a lot of different degrees. So that could be an MD, a DO, DMD, DDS, PhD, JD, PharmD, and there's probably ones that I don't have listed here. So there's a variety of things that could satisfy that. Next slide, please, Fran. There's two sort of main scheduling options for the MPH in clinical effectiveness. So just sort of two flavors, the academic year program and the summer focused program. They're both an MPH in clinical effectiveness. The requirements are very similar between them. It's really just a matter of kind of which scheduling option might work best for you. So for the academic year program, that can be completed full time in one academic year. So meaning you would start with the PCE in the summer, so in July, and then just continue right into the academic year program and finish the following May. So it's basically one academic year. However, it is also possible, in fact, many of our students are sort of part-time and spread that out over 2 years. So in fact, some of our students who are in the academic year program are fellows at one of the local teaching hospitals in the Boston area. So they're doing some things for their fellowship. They probably have clinical responsibilities. They may be doing research, but they can spread the degree requirements over 2 years. Academic year is the most flexible option. So you basically can enroll in on-campus courses during any term, summer, fall, winter, and spring. And so you have a really broad variety of different courses that you can take. In addition to being able to take on-campus courses during any of those semesters, you may also be able to enroll in a limited number of online elective courses if space is available. And so I emphasize that because we have a number of online elective courses at the school that were developed for students in another degree program that is a fully online program. And so our students in the MPH and clinical effectiveness do not have first priority for those classes. However, sometimes there is space available, in which case our students can register for a certain number of them. So that's also just a nice option to have. And one other perk of being in the academic year program is you actually can also cross-register at other Harvard schools, such as we have some students who are interested in policy, for example, who like to take courses at the Kennedy School, and even MIT. So academic year really kind of gives you the most flexibility, I would say, in terms of what courses you can take. The summer-focused MPH in clinical effectiveness is designed to be completed in either 2 or 3 summers with some kind of online courses that are required during the academic year. And those are what we call sort of core public health courses that need to be taken by all MPH students at the school. If you're in the summer focus program, you're more limited in terms of when you can take classes. So you can only take on-campus courses in the summer and during winter session, which is a 3-week period in January. So those are your only options for on-campus courses. In addition, as I mentioned, for the students in the academic year program, summer focus students also do have the option to take a limited number of online electives if space is available. And cross-registration is not an option for students in the summer focus program. So the summer focused MPH and clinical effectiveness often works well for students who are not in the Boston area and just come, maybe working at a hospital in a different location and want to just come to Boston for sort of set periods of time during the summer to take courses. Or sometimes we also have students who are in the Boston area, but just prefer to concentrate their courses in the summers. So those are the kind of the two main flavors. Fran, next slide, please. This really just gives you an overview of what the curriculum looks like for the MPH and clinical effectiveness. And again, I won't go through all the details of this, but happy to talk offline about it, or if there's time during the Q&A. So all students who are getting an MPH in clinical effectiveness, and actually all MPH students at the school, have to do sort of the core curriculum that's required for any MPH. So that includes the core epi and biostat courses, which in this case are part of the program in clinical effectiveness. There are also some sort of core public health courses in different areas of public health that are required for all MPH students at the school. So that's part of the core curriculum as well. Then MPH and clinical effectiveness students have some specific field of study coursework that's specific for the MPH and clinical effectiveness. Then they have a number of electives that they can choose from. And basically this all adds up to 45 credits. Or even more than 45 credits. There is a link here as far as accessing the curriculum guide. I don't know if I'm bad at chatting while I'm talking, but if it's possible, Marian, perhaps afterward we could pop that link into the chat, and then people could take a look at the curriculum guide to get a little bit more of a flavor. Next slide, Fran, please. So I'm not talking about all the individual requirements, but I did want to just show you a snapshot of what the field of study requirements are for the MPH and clinical effectiveness. So all MPH and clinical effectiveness students, whether you're academic year, whether you're summer focused, it doesn't matter, need to take one regression course. You get introduced to regression in Brian's introductory biostatistics course, but regression is such a commonly used method that we think it's important for all students to have a further course. So all MPH and clinical effectiveness students will end up choosing one of these courses in regression. They're all excellent, lots of different options. And then in addition, MPH and clinical effectiveness students also have to take a total of 5 credits, which in most cases is 2 classes, in what we call upper level clinical effectiveness courses. And I included the definition here. It's basically any course beyond the intro level that provides students with analytic and quantitative skills for evaluating clinical and public health issues. I've shown just a snapshot of a few of those courses here on the slide. So principles of clinical trials, survival methods in clinical research, introduction to systematic reviews and meta-analysis, epidemiologic methods in health services research. But in fact, there's a very long list of classes that fulfill that requirement, and they all tend to be very popular among our students. So I just wanted to give you a sense for the kinds of courses that you would take as part of the MPH and clinical effectiveness. Next slide, please, Fran. So just briefly, that's the MPH and clinical effectiveness. But as I said, there is another degree program that you can, if you're interested, apply to or go into after the PCE, and that's the MS, or the Masters of Science in Epidemiology. So I'll talk just a minute about that one. So the MS in epidemiology, as you can tell by the name, is a Master of Science degree rather than a Master's of Public Health. So there is sort of a difference, I'll say, between an MPH and an MS. So a Master's of Science is considered to be a research degree versus a professional public health degree. And so because of that, the Master's of Science does not require you to take some of these core public health courses in other areas outside of, epidemiology and biostatistics. So you have a little bit more space to go slightly deeper in some epidemiology courses, and because you're not having to take other sort of more general public health courses. But I will say that many students in the MPH and clinical effectiveness have take very similar coursework, in fact, to the Masters of Science, and also end up doing research as well. So the distinction is a little bit, not sort of set in stone. The Master's of Science is slightly fewer credits than the MPH, so 42.5 credits. And similar to what I was talking about before for the MPH and clinical effectiveness, there's also a couple different scheduling options, so academic year or summer focused. And again, the Master's of Science in Epidemiology can be started with the program in clinical effectiveness as well. Next slide, please, Fran. And I'm wrapping up this section, so you'll get to hear from our students in just a minute. But as I mentioned, there's 2 sort of scheduling options. So there's the summer-focused Masters of Science in Epidemiology. Again, this was specifically created for students coming out of the PCE, can be completed in 2 or 3 summers, similar to the MPH. And basically, students can take summer courses, optional courses if they want to during winter session, which is January, and then also have the option to take some fall and spring online classes if space is available. Students who are in the summer focused Masters of Science in EPI also do a thesis that's supervised by a local mentor and a Harvard faculty member. That's usually written in the form of a draft manuscript. And in fact, MPH and clinical effectiveness students also work on an applied research project and write a paper that in fact ends up being fairly similar to the thesis requirement as well. So there's a link here where you can get more information. And then we have also some email addresses at the end if you have further questions about this program. And then finally, last one, I think, about the degree programs, the academic year version of the Masters of Science in EPI. Again, this is done, sort of during the academic year, so it can be done in 1 or 2 years, sort of similar in terms of the curriculum, and the PCE courses that you would take during the summer replace what the sort of intro courses that would normally be taken in the fall for other students in a Master's of Science. There's also a required culminating experience, which I believe is similar in terms of the format of a thesis. And again, we have a link here with much more information. So I know this was a lot, but just trying to give you kind of a general flavor for the different degree programs that can follow from the program in clinical effectiveness. Next slide, please, Fran. All right, this is the fun part. So we have, and Fran said I coerced them, but let me say that I think our PCE and MPH and clinical effectiveness students are always very excited, I think, to talk about the program. And so what I'm going to do, we have 3 students who recently completed the program in clinical effectiveness and are now in the MPH in clinical effectiveness that we've invited to join us this evening. So I'll just read their names off, ask each one of them to say a quick hello, introduce themselves, say something brief about their research interests, and something about their experience in the PCE. And then they'll be around to also answer questions at the end as well. So we'll start off with Kenshiro. Do you want to go ahead and say hello?
Yeah, thanks, Heather. Hi, everyone. My name is Kenshiro Fuse, and I am an MPH CLA candidate here and took PCE this year. So I'm a neurologist, just finished residency in Japan and came here this year. Firstly, epidemiology and biostatistics were 2 major weakest subjects as a med student. So honestly, I didn't like, or rather hated, epi and biostats. And I was really worried about coming here. But after PCE with epi course by Dr. Cook, Heather, and other fantastic teachers, and biostats course by Brian, I really, really love them. So which was pretty great, Brian, thanks. And finally, I made a lot of friends. One of them, I am working with a German student, and we are working on a project guided by Dr. Bates. So we started that project from the afternoon course in PCE, which is really great. So I absolutely recommend you to join this course on MPH here. Thank you.
Thanks, Kenshiro. Afifa, you are next.
Yeah, my name's Afifa. I did the PCE in 2023, and I'm doing the MPH Clinical Effectiveness 45 credit degree part-time over the course of 2 years, because I'm also a hospital medicine fellow at Brigham and Women's, so I have clinical duties as well, in addition to taking classes during the school year. But yes, I know that Heather's heard this from me before, but the PCE, I mean, I like the MPH class I'm taking now, but the PCE so far has been the best part of the MPH, not just because you're with a bunch of other clinicians, but also because you're in class for so long that you end up spending a lot of time with the people who sit next to you. I'm really good friends with the people that I sat with. We still go out for dinner regularly. I went on vacation with a couple folks to London a couple months ago. And I will say, like, a lot of very dense material, but I would say like the highest utility material that I've learned so far as well.
Great, thanks, Afifa. And last but not least, Carmine.
Hi, Good evening. My name is Carmine Valenza. I am a medical oncology fellow from Italy in Milan, and I am in last year of residency, and I'm here for the PCE and the master in clinical effectiveness. And it was, yes, an incredible, a very intense experience, and it allowed me to meet a lot of new colleagues and also new friends, and I initiated a lot of new collaborations. It's a unique opportunity, especially in our activity, if we visit patients in the clinic, to have protected time to study and to have this deep dive into statistics and epidemiology, because usually during our clinical activity, for example, so in Italy, we don't have a lot of protect time also to study, and statistics and epidemiology are approached in a very superficial and also with the self-learning approach. So it was really amazing. It's really amazing. For example, before the PCE, I was working at 2 original reports on breast cancer, 2 manuscripts, and then I stopped for due to the PCE, and I came back at the end, and I modified both method and results part after what I learned, and it was successful.
Great. Thanks so much, Carmine. And I really appreciate you and Afifa and Kenshiro being on. And don't go anywhere because we're going to finish the formal part in a minute or two, and then hopefully you can help us answer questions as well. So thanks for joining. So I think just for the last few slides, Marion, we're going to turn it over to you, correct?
I think so, yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Heather. All right, so if you're considering to apply to the degree programs that Heather has mentioned, there's 2 parts to the application this year. So the first one is that the degree deadline is December 1st. It is before the non-degree deadline. And you need to fill out an application on SOFAS, that is for the MPH CLE or the Summer Focused MS and EPI. You need to write a statement of purpose. Less than 600 words is the guideline. You need to have an English proficiency exam if applicable to you. The standardized test scores for the MPH CLE are optional. There's a link that we'll put in the chat as well for some guidance on this. For the MS EPI, however, the standardized test scores are required. You need 3 letters of reference, your CV, and then transcripts. International transcripts will need to be translated. As I said, this is the first part of this application. You need to fill out a SOFAS application. Fran, next slide, please. You also need to fill out a SOFAS Express application, which is slightly different this year than in past years. All students are required to do both applications. For the SOFAS Express application, you need your CV, statement of purpose, 2 letters of recommendation, again, English proficiency exam if applicable, transcripts are optional, and standardized tests are optional. It is on here for there's for non-degree programs as a standalone. There's no financial aid available. It's different for the degree programs, and we would advise you to talk to the financial aid office on that. Next slide. So because you fill out 2 applications, we want to make it very clear. The statement of purpose can be the same for both applications. You don't have to rewrite them. What you're writing for your degree program, just use the same for your non-degree application in SOFAS Express. Also, the letters of recommendations can be the same for each application. So have your writers write an application for the degree program and just use the same letter to submit it to the non-degree program. We also would like to stress that, because every application has an application fee attached with that. The SOFAS Express, so the non-degree application portion of this, if you email us at that email address, which we'll also put in the chat, proclineffect@partners.org, we will send you a voucher to cover your SOFAS Express application. You need to email us once you've submitted your degree application, but before you submit the SOFAS Express application, because we don't want you to pay for it. Once you pay, there's no refund. They don't give you the money back. So submit your degree application. We will see that in the system that it has been submitted. Doesn't matter if your data writers have done their part or any of that. You just need to have clicked the submit button. Send us an email, and then we will send you a code to use as a payment form for the SOFAS Express application. Next slide, please. All right, here's some contact information for you, and all these slides are also going to go on the website together with this recording today. So if you need to reach us, proclineffect@partners.org is the best way to reach anyone on my team. For the MPH program, please email mph@hsph.harvard.edu. Same for MS EPI, email the HEAT email address. Admissions office, admissions@hsph, and the registrar, register@hsph. I also have the pleasure to introduce Bill Gardner tonight from the admissions team, who is here with us to also answer questions on this application process, if you have any. And Bill, is there anything that we were missing so far that you would like to add?
No, that's perfect. Like Marian said, for people applying to CLE and submitting a Sophos Express application for the PCE, please feel free to use the same statement of purpose. Tell your recommenders they can use the same ones. You don't have to jump through hoops here. You don't have to overthink it. Just copy and paste, and you should be all set.
All right, and I think with that next slide, I think we're opening it up for questions.
This is my summary
Sorry,
slide.
I apologize, Fran.
So to summarize everything we've been talking about, why should you begin a degree program at Harvard, Chan, with the PCE? Well, again, this is focused on training clinical researchers. If you're a clinician wanting to do research, this program is designed for you. The courses are very relevant. We showed you what the alums said 20 years in the program, how they use the tools that they learned from our program to start their careers or to get them promoted to different degrees. We have a highly rated faculty. We get very good evaluations every year, some of the strongest evaluations at the Harvard Chan School. We have developed targeted degree programs that, continue, that can build on the training you learned in the PCE if you want to go on for a degree program. We have a very condensed schedule. It's intense, but in 6 weeks, you have 1/3 of your degree done already. But by far, the last thing I want to stress is, and this was hinted at by a few of the students who talked tonight, we are very lucky to have the cohort of students we have every year. They're highly motivated. They're really driven to learn this material. They're the ones that teachers love to teach. And you will be building a network of colleagues that will carry you on into the future, that you'll learn from each other. I'm a big believer in peer education. You probably learn more from your fellow students than you will from our faculty in the program. So that's my 2 cents or plug for starting a degree program with the PCE. Now we're going to turn it over for questions. I'm going to stop sharing. You can ask questions about the application process that Marian and Bill can answer. You can ask the students more about their experiences. You can ask Heather and Brian about their morning courses. You can ask me about anything. So you can either type something into a chat, you can raise your hand, or if you're old enough, you just unmute yourself and start talking. You can keep your camera off or put it on, wherever you want. Okay, so questions? As always, who's going first?
Someone has to start.
Hi, thank you so much for a great presentation. My question is when decisions are going to be announced and whether there is any sort of rolling review of applications or how degree versus non-degree applications get considered.
I guess
Bill, you want to go first with the...
Yeah, I think I missed the end of your question there. But essentially, decisions for all degree programs are rolled out from around February to the end of March. So that goes for degree and non-degree, non-degree closer to, I would say, to the end of March or around in March. But either way, through February and March is when you would hear a decision about a degree program.
Got it, thank you.
As a point, the faculty who review the degree applications and the faculty who review the Sophos Express for non-degree students, we start reviewing them as soon as they're complete and give our decisions pretty early in January to the admissions process. And it's just the admissions departments going through their schedule of notifying people with the results of the review. So we try to do it as quickly as possible.
Thank you. And so if I understand correctly, for a non-degree applicant, even though the deadline is in February, if we were able to submit all of our materials earlier, it could potentially be reviewed earlier and we would be notified on the sooner end. Is that true?
I would say that it's potential if you submit earlier, you could potentially be reviewed earlier. The only thing is typically with if you're just planning on applying for the PCE, the non-degree application, non-degree reviews typically happen later, I would say, in the cycle. And you would likely still be looking at that like March to end of March timeframe for a decision.
Thank you.
I think we might need to clarify. So if you are applying for the degree program, your deadline is December 1st. Even though the non-degree deadline is February 15th, if you're applying for the degree program, you need to have your SOFAS Express, your non-degree application in at this around the same time. There's a little bit of gap time, if you're 2 or 3 days late because you need my voucher and, it takes 2 days, that's all fine. But you still need to apply at the same time because if you want to take the degree program, you need to get into the PCE. So we on our end need to have a conversation about that to make sure that you were accepted into both programs, which is so the decision is going to be released somewhat at the same timeline. Non-degree applications just have a little bit longer leadway because we don't have to discuss anything with the degree programs, anything like that, which is why we can accept applications significantly later in February versus December.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I will, if you applying for a non-degree application, once it's completed, I will review it and we will make a decision. The question is, when can we tell you what that decision is? Depends on the school's policy.
I saw unrelated, Bill, I was wondering if you could address, there was a question in the chat from Simone about sort of who needs to take the English language proficiency test. Would you mind clarifying that? And then I want to turn it over there's a question to our current students as well, but do you mind taking that one?
Yeah, so you will need to take the an English language proficiency test if none of your degrees have one, been instructed in English, or two, all of your degrees were taken in a foreign country where the language of instruction was not English. So that's who needs to take the English language proficiency tests. If you have any clarifying questions about that, you can send us an email. But generally, that's who needs to take the test.
Fran or Marion, are you okay if I pass? There is a question for our current students. Are you okay if I pass that one on?
Yes.
Yeah, great. So there's a question from Natalia in the chat. It says, to Kenshiro and Carmine, but I think it's directed just more generally at our, students who've already gone through the PCE. What were your goals, or what are your goals after getting the MPH degree, and how do you think the program is going to help you achieve them? So you don't all have to answer that, but either Carmine or Afifa or
I can
Kenshiro, if
start.
any of you want to chime in,
Yes,
please do.
I can start and then Kishiro can go on. Yes, my goal is to work as a trialist, so to design clinical trial for patients with breast cancer from the academic side. And so statistics and epidemiology are at the base of clinical trial design. And the other opportunity I had is that during my experience for the AP project at Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, I received a proposal for a research fellowship for the subsequent year that I accepted. So there's also this huge opportunity for connections and for other opportunities in your work.
Okay, so yeah, about me, so my goal is concisely research, the publication, and the MPH or PCE course will help me to host the knowledge and skills and the networking. So knowledge and skills wise, as I told you, I knew nothing about epidemiology and biostats, and they taught me a lot, and through that I made progress on my research on stroke and another research about on multiple sclerosis. And another thing is the project. As I told you, I'm working on a project with German friend and guided by Dr. Bates. So then, like that example, the program will help us networking to our peers and our seniors. So knowledge and skills and networking, they will help me.
And then in terms of what the MPH will help me achieve, or I don't know if it was towards PCE or MPH or both, but I think I'll echo what Kinchira was saying, where a lot of it is, I mean, I came in really like my biostats knowledge was so basic. My knowledge about like designing trials, especially policy related research, which is what I'm primarily interested in, was also very basic. So it provided an entire foundation to be able to do that kind of research. And then same idea where exposure to so many different kinds of trials, so many different kinds of research designs, implementation science, quality improvement. I mean, like exposure to so many different things that I didn't even know I was interested in before I started the PCE and before I started the MPH. And I don't know exactly. My plan is to continue doing research. My research right now is kind of around corporatization of hospitals. I'm interested in doing research that's like going to very directly inform policy. So maybe something with government. So yeah, so very applicable to what I want to be doing in terms of future goals.
And we have a raised hand as well. Giovanni, if you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks so much for this amazing session. It was super informative. So I have a question more, it's actually about the application process. So I'm applying right now for the MPH in clinical effectiveness and of course also the PC. And for the PC application, I see there's a requirement saying that local applicants should have a position in a clinical department in Boston, and also that one of the letter of recommendations should be from the division or department head verifying the applicant's affiliation during this summer. But if I got it right, it doesn't seem to have this requirement for the MPH application. And for example, right now I'm a research fellow here in Boston in one of the Harvard hospitals, but my position will end before the MPH, and my plan was to finish my current position and then start the MPH, hopefully. So I just got a little bit confused with this information, and I was wondering if you could explain a little bit more about this requirement for the PCE and MPH. Thank you.
Well, I'll make the first crack at it. In terms of the PCE application, what we're looking for is some sort of record that our students will have the environment to essentially use the tools that they learn in the summer and go on and do research. Now, many of our people who take this program are in the beginning or maybe the middle of a fellowship program, and they have protected time built in. So all we want from their fellowship director is a letter saying, yes, he's our fellow and he's going to be doing research. For someone like yourself, who seems like you're in a transition point, you are finishing a program in I think you said you're one of the Harvard hospitals. You're going to be taking the MPH, and then you're going to be going on to do something afterwards. What we'd like to see in your statement is what you're going to do post PCE. Would you be will you be doing a fellowship program in the future? What are your goals? We just want to make sure that the tools you learn will be able to be used by you in the future. And so so if you don't have the environment right now for September of 2025 of having a mentored environment, just make it clear in the statement what your future goals are, and that'll be sufficient.
All right, thank you.
And I think we have some questions in the chat. They said, question from Danielle, as you said, there was a grant proposal is required for PCE. What paper is required for the MPH and what types of research projects do the students typically undertake? Heather, do you want to take a crack at
Sure.
that?
Yeah. And I didn't talk about this during because we had a lot of slides, and as you can see, I know we're over time now. So, but yeah, for the MPH and clinical effectiveness, all MPH clinical effectiveness students do have to do what we call a practicum project. But for our students, a practicum project is usually an applied research project where students are doing research on a topic of their choice. It could be a clinical research or health services research question. It could be using a variety of different kinds of data. And so for the practicum, they kind of do the project, and sometimes it is the project that was proposed during the EPI 208 course. So in the EPI 208 course, you write a proposal, but you don't actually do the project because it's only 6 weeks. It's too little time. But many students take their EPI 208 proposal that they wrote during the summer, and then they actually conduct that project for their practicum. It, again, does not have to be. Some students develop a totally new project for the practicum and do that instead, but it can be the same project. And now, in addition to doing the practicum project, all students do a final presentation about that in a class that actually Carmine, Kenshiro, and Afifa are all in the class now that we meet on Friday mornings, and students take turn presenting, and it's really fun. At least I think it's fun. And all MPH and clinical effectiveness also now write up a draft manuscript based on that. So they basically do an applied research project, present on it to other students, and then write a final paper in the form of a draft manuscript. The draft manuscript does not have to be submitted or published in order for you to graduate, but it's definitely a step along the way. And so I actually think it's good. It helps students get to the point of actually writing and submitting a publication. We do have, and I can pop it in the chat actually as soon as I stop talking because I'm not competent enough to multitask, but there is actually a link that I can put in the chat in a minute, which has past practicum projects conducted by students in the MPH and clinical effectiveness, and actually also in other MPH programs at the school, because all MPH students have to do some version of a practicum project. Some of them look a little bit different than ours, but you actually can access that information. So I'm happy to kind of put um, the link in the chat if people want to take a look. Hopefully that helps address that one.
I didn't see another one coming from that, so I hope so. There's more questions about the English proficiency to clarify. And Bill, please jump in. If you did not go to an institution that primarily taught in English and you're not a native English speaker, you will need to do an English proficiency test for any courses at HSPH at this point. Non-degree, degree. You do the test once and the result you apply to all the applications. You don't have to redo your tests again, use the same test results. But yes, you are required for a proficiency test if you were not taught in an advanced degree in English. A question, is the history of publication important for my MPH application?
I can take that one, Fran, if that's okay, and you can chime in. Yeah, so the question is about how, whether or not people applying to the MPH need to have publications. It's certainly nice if you do have publications, and that's one thing we would look at in terms of, like, we look for kind of relevant experience, and so sometimes if you have a publication, that's great. We would look at that on your CV or resume. You could mention that in your personal statement, but that's certainly not required. And I would say many students who are coming into the program in clinical effectiveness and the MPH oftentimes don't have publications. And in fact, one of the reasons that they're doing the program is because they want to learn how to do better research so that they can get publications. So, there's lots of different forms of relevant experience that you can have beyond just publications. So what I would say is certainly it's nice if you have publications, but not a requirement. And when you're applying, I would say just think carefully about your personal statement. I find that the most important part of the application. In fact, when I'm reviewing it, I look at other, I look at your, CV. I look at test scores if they're there. There's a variety, and look at letters of recommendation, but I really think the personal statement is your chance to explain who you are, what you're interested in, why you want to do the MPH program or the PCE if you're just applying to the PCE, and like what you think you'll get out of it. That's really the most important part.
All right. Any other questions? I know we're a little over time at this point, but if you have any other questions, raise your hand, put them in the chat now. Otherwise, also email us proclineffect@partners.org. You can reach any of the other teams at the emails on the slides. Again, the slides will go up on the website together with the recording of this tomorrow.
I should plug too, starting on Wednesday, throughout the rest of this month and into December, I'm going to be doing MPH, CLE, and PCE office hours from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Hopefully that's early enough in the morning that it can accommodate some of your schedules. If you have any questions about SOFAS and SOFAS Express, submitting both applications, where to put your English language proficiency exam on the PCE application, anything, I will be there the whole hour to answer your questions. So stop on by. I think you can find, I sent everyone who's working on an in-progress application an email today. You can find the office hour link on the CLE website as well.
Thank you, Bill. I know I put that on our website as well for the application process so that everybody's aware. And it seems like this might be it for questions for us tonight.
Marion, I saw there were 46 chats posted. I assume that you and Heather and maybe others have been answering them. So are
Yes.
there anybody who put a chat in that wasn't answered? This is the time to bring it up. Great. Okay. Back to you, Marion.
Well, thank you all. If no one else has any last words, I'm just going to say thank you all for coming tonight. We really appreciate you taking the time. And again, if you have any questions about your application process, anything, let us know. We're here to help. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your night.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And if people are still on, I want to also give a special shout out to our current students. Sorry, I'm grateful to current students who are joining voluntarily. So Kenshiro, Carmine, Afifa, thank you very much for being on. Really appreciate it. And of course, everybody else for joining as well.
Yes, thank you guys.
Bye, everybody. Take care.